Sorry. We will bring the meeting to order, for the Norfolk School Committee on Tuesday, November 13th, 2018. And as we start out every meeting, read the mission statement. Norfolk Public Schools offers a safe, joyful, and challenging learning environment that meets the needs of our diverse students. Through school, family, and community partnerships, we provide an education that inspires lifelong learners and cultivates caring and productive citizens of our ever-changing world. Roll call.
John Wynn.
Medora Champagne.
Jeff Curry.
Paul Cochran.
Thomas Doyle.
Ingrid Larney.
All right. Seeing we have no public comments, we will move right to the school gift fund amount, which we have me putting my glasses on so I can read this. And we have a number of gifts here that total $3,832.12. They are all from the Norfolk PTO, so thank you in advance to them. And they break out as follows. $520 for Bose and Apple iPad for Freeman. $485.19 for S-Cool Moves.
Yep.
We'll pretend I know what that is.
Physical fitness kind of thing.
Physical fitness, okay. $1,000, that goes to Freeman Kennedy as well. $1,000 for a book room. And then to HOD, we have $356 to Finch Robots, $237.60 Finch Robots to Freeman, beanbag chairs of $500 to HOD, visual cards for grade 1 at HOD, and then some subsidizing of resources for the kindergarten at HOD for $396. So those total, as mentioned, $3,832.12. Do we have a motion to accept those very generous gifts?
I'll make a motion to accept the gifts from Norfolk PTO.
Okay, a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so moving on to the often delayed, by me, so I apologize for that in advance, superintendent evaluation. So that is now completed and uploaded and available for the public to review. So as a quick aside, I will go into my normal complaint of that I find these category ratings to be silly and somewhat unhelpful to you, so I apologize for that. But so your choices are unsatisfactory, needs improvement, proficient, and exemplary. So the way I read that is proficient, you're pretty good at your job. Exemplary means perfect at your job, and I think, just me personally, anyone within a job always has room to improve, so there should be some sort of middle category between the two. So that's not to take away anything from Ingrid, that just seems the default of the form. So anyway, so overall rating was exemplary. And we broke it down to a few different categories. There's instructional leadership, management and operations, the professional culture, as well, I think, hold on, I'm missing one page, bear with me 1 second here.
Family, community.
Family and community. And while me personally, all those are very, very important, I think probably the biggest thing is family and community, the communication, because I think that just involves everything. That's working with the staff, working with all the teachers, working with the parents, the students. To me, that all the rest of this kind of follows along with that. So I think that is by far the most important particular thing within the review. But anyway, overall, another very good year, so thank you. And we appreciate your efforts. I don't know if anyone wants to jump in and add to that.
Thank you. You're very welcome.
Yes.
Well said.
Okay. We need you to sign.
All right, so then we have to actually, so I need a motion actually to accept the evaluation as presented.
I'll make a motion to accept the superintendent evaluation as presented.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, do we have any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So again, that is available for public review, should anyone want to see that. Okay, so that's that.
KP liaison.
Yeah, so then we're moving on to the KP liaison. I think we put this off from last month, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. As far as who was going to serve that role, because Paul was not able to do that, so then I think we discussed this, were we all here last month?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I couldn't remember. All right, so then basically we need someone to serve in that capacity. I think we had sort of talked about it a bit, but never really came up with anything beyond that. And I think, Jen, you were looking into the possibility, if I remember correctly?
I
or
thought it was
am I-
Jeff.
It was Jeff that was looking into the possibility. It was a J.
Someone begin with a J here.
That was pretty good. I had a 50% chance of getting it wrong. Yeah.
Any questions about the role that I can hopefully answer?
How many nights a month?
Many as you want. They have school committee meetings twice a month. They're typically on Mondays, and they're offset from our meeting. So there's no conflicts there.
Okay.
They begin at 7. It's pretty much the same structure. There's a representative, a liaison from each of the towns, as well as their core school committee group. I think that, in my short tenure going to them, and also compared to what I have heard in previous years, they have become more succinct, more efficient. The documentation that's delivered out to the school committee is, I think, better prepared than it has been in the past, and Superintendent Zinni is doing a good job of adding value to that group and doing it in a more concise time frame.
Sounds fair. So,
All the other subcommittees I think, are appropriately staffed, so there was no additional responsibilities that I had when I was there with
Okay.
subcommittees.
Unfortunately, my daughter has dance till 7 on Mondays.
okay.
I can't.
So I will volunteer for at least the interim.
That'd be great.
And I'm open to looking at it for the following year once I get the
Nope, Jeff
dance.
volunteered. He stopped. He's
Okay.
he's our guy going forward.
They do really try to make them, they're really trying to make them manageable and
Yeah.
concise and effective. And ideally, they'd love somebody to be able to be there for both meetings, but if you can only make one a month, it's just important that they have another Norfolk voting member so they can have a quorum for issues. So that'd be great. Thank you for.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right, so then we need a vote to bestow our official blessing on Jeff for this role. So do we have a motion to have Jeff be the King Philip liaison?
I'll make a motion for Jeff to be the King Philip liaison.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second it.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you again, Jeff, appreciate it. All right, moving on to Ingrid.
All right, so we have a budget update. Tonight, we do the quarterly budget update. Unfortunately, Todd Hassett has another commitment tonight, so he wasn't able to be here, and our assistant business manager is sick. So I will do my best to give you the budget update, and then if there's any questions I can't answer, I will refer them to Todd and bring them back next month. Overall, we're tracking very well in terms of spending this year. In the budget packet that you have, he broke it down by budget code. So district administration covers expenses of the business office, HR office, legal services, district technology. We had $488,057 budgeted for that. At this point, we are projecting to expend $487,401, so 99, almost 100% of that budget, with a balance right now projected of $656. Todd always puts notes in the comments concerns. That one variable that we always have that we have to monitor is legal services. So right now, we don't have any significant expenses, but that can change. So he always puts that as a note to monitor. Instructional services, that budget category funds all our teacher salaries, professional development, instructional material, guidance and psychological, and school leadership. We had a budget of $9,740,404 in that line. We are also projecting to expend, at this point, 99.9% of that, with a projected savings of $7,116 in that total category. Some of the comments or concerns, we ended up with some savings in the teacher salary line, which happens, we always budget for new positions at M5. We had a few people come in at a lower level on the salary scale. We also did have to add a special education aide that was unbudgeted. So most of the salary savings that we've seen were already committed. We also, since this budget update, had to increase and add an additional staff member for the FK lunch monitor we have several lunches that are almost 150 students. So we added another lunch monitor. That's projected to be about $6,000 by the end of the year. So I do think that this balance, we're probably going to be projecting more like 100% of expending in that category. Other student services would be health and nursing, transportation, food services, and other activities. We had budgeted $820,895 in that. We're projecting to expend at this point $811,000 with a balance of $9,700. It's about 98%. The concerns are always if we have any additional outplacements, the pupil transportation budget could increase, so we watch that. We do have some aging equipment primarily in the Age Holiday Kitchen. We're hoping to get through the year with, but that's a potential area that we have to monitor. Operation and maintenance covers custodial services, maintenance, heating, utilities, extraordinary maintenance, and our district networking. We had $947,144 budgeted there. We are projecting to expend 99.75% of that, with a balance of $2,331. We have delayed in this category, and so we're just noting, we do know that we need to do recommissioning of the systems at H Olive Day. That is not in the budget for this year because we need to do the roof project and repair insulation first, but that'll be coming. We do have technology maintenance and replacement needs. We have some funding in the budget for updating equipment, but as the buildings are aging, we're going to have to look at that budget line and probably increase it to keep up with the technology that's aging out. And we don't know what the weather is going to be like, so heating and fuel and oil prices have been variable, so we're going to have to keep an eye on that.
Do we lock in for oil?
That's what they're saying.
We did last year. We have been looking at that this year. The prices have been
going down,
fluctuating so much that we haven't locked in yet.
I just heard an NPR report on it this morning on the way to work that they anticipate it to go up.
Yeah, we've been monitoring that
Yeah.
really closely. Matt Hafner has been looking at that regularly with Todd and trying to determine what the best course of action is. So, but we, as of right now, we haven't locked in.
Okay.
That's odd they're going to go up, because, I mean, crude oil is, the bottom has fallen out of it the last 30 days. I mean, it's, and I know heating oil is a
I don't think
different
they're
thing,
making, from what I understood, is they're not making, it's supply and demand, like they're not really making a lot of it now because, and so they're anticipating
Oh,
that
they'll do it.
because they're not making a lot, they should slowed it down, that it's anticipating it's supposed to, who knows?
They're watching.
Every
they're
year.
watching it
Every year
really
they say that.
closely.
I'll ask my mom, she's 80, she's on top of it.
So we'll have that report next time, but
Yeah, we-
they are watching it really
Can you have
closely
your
with the
mom do a
business
PowerPoint?
office.
My mother, this is
Nana
what
will
she lives
come.
for,
Nana
Nana
will
lives for
come
this
and
for the
she'll
last
do a
15 years, get the best oil rate.
The next line item in the budget is fixed charges, so employee retirements, insurance programs, contractual benefits, other charges. That's a small account, that's $35,500 in the budget. We're projecting to fully expend that account. We do not have anything in the equipment line this year, so there's zero in it, and we're going to spend zero, so we're going to fully deplete that one. Programs with other districts, and that would be out of district placements, residential programs, private schools, collaboratives. We have in the budget $231,000 for that. We are projecting right now $129,000 spent, so we have $102,000 in that account. That is subject to change again if we end up placing any other students out. We usually have one potential placeholder for that in case that situation arises.
We left one placeholder in this year for this.
Yeah, I believe that's
Okay,
what we have
that sounds
in the budget for this year. And then in the summary, it just shows you overall, we're projecting at this point to expend 99% of the budget with $122,237 potential remaining, depending on those factors that we talked about. The next page is special revenue funds. Right now, all of our federal, state grants are at or below the allocations from 2015. We do have pending grant funding from MSBA for the roof replacement project. We received that grant. We are in the process of getting design services and the bid specs together to move that forward.
That's great.
And then we will have to go to the town to offset the balance. MSBA funds about 50% of that project.
When would we go to the town with that? I'm just wondering, because I know we're going to.
We've talked to the town about possibly a special meeting, a special town meeting in January. We're also in the process of closing out the Freeman Kennedy Building project, which we've been in the process of as.
For 3 years
Yes,
now.
for 3 years. But it's done. We just got the final accounting balance. There's almost $950,000 that the town will receive back in additional payments
okay.
from MSBA as the final payment. That my understanding is that the town has to vote to accept that money. So it might be in the best interest of the town to do a January meeting, accept the return from Freeman Kennedy, and then vote about the funding for the H. Olive Day roof. But they're still looking at that from the
Okay.
town side, is when they want to do that.
What was the anticipated roof replacement budget? Like,
So
cost?
it could be up to almost $2 million.
Okay.
When we got estimated prices about a year
So-
ago, it was 1.6, but things have gone up, and that there's a lot of cost in terms of the insulation and bringing things to code, and then the new shingles and.
So we'd have $1 million that would have to come from us, assuming MSBA puts in 50% of it,
Yeah.
but the Freeman money
The
largely
Freeman
could take
money
care
can
of
be,
it.
the town can vote to reallocate that fund to a like project.
Correct.
So they could choose to vote to allocate that to the roof if
Okay.
if the town wanted to
So
do
there
that.
would, in that scenario, if this using $2 million, there'd be a very small difference that would,
Right.
okay.
Right.
And that doesn't include the cupolas? The windows in the cupola?
No, but we purchased new glass for the windows and the cupolas out of a grant that we had, an earmark grant from the state for roof repair. So we already have all of that material for when the project's done. So that won't be under the MSBA project, but those windows will be replaced, and we've
By
already
the
got the
same people?
material.
Who pays for the,
We'll have to
What the
pay for the labor of
labor,
that, but
that's
we've
what I was
already, we had a grant fund from the state last year, an earmark grant for roof repair. So we wanted to use it for design services, but we weren't able to do that because MSBA requires you to use whoever they appoint. So what we did was we purchased all the glass for the window replacement for the cupolas out of that grant. So we have that, it's all stored. Believe it's stored behind Town Hall, but I'm not positive where.
and there's money already in the budget for labor for
We'll
the-
have to look at that for
We'll have to
for
look at
next year.
that in addition to, okay.
Does Matt do windows?
Probably, Matt does a lot. We may be able to, what we'll probably do is ask the town for the funding for that as
Same
part of the
time.
town's portion. MSBA won't
Right,
jump on that, but
right,
it
right,
could
right,
be
right.
on that. I don't think it will be in terms of the labor for that. I don't think it's going to be huge, so. School gift fund, we have a balance of $32,000 in there. They've accepted $19,767 in donations to date. Todd did let me know that they're starting to get some of the bills for scholarship funds and things, so that balance will go down because those scholarships and things are coming in now. In the past, the donations have been used for teacher grants, technology improvements, Camp Borndale scholarships, and special events like Field Day and Respect Program, things like that. Yeah, it's a healthy balance. And then the last page just gives you a summary by line. Any questions on budget?
Oh, have anything? Anybody else? Nope.
Actually, Ingrid, I have a question.
Yeah.
Lunch monitors, are they always employed, like, are they always separate paid people? Do teachers do any lunch monitoring at all?
That's part of the current teacher's contract is the teachers have a 30-minute duty-free lunch. So the way that we provide that is by having lunch monitors supervise. Teachers supervise recess. and we made that decision as a district. We wanted teachers
Okay,
out on
that's why.
recess.
Okay.
The lunch monitors just supervise the cafeteria. And in the past, it's worked well just to have two. It's just this year where we have 150 kids in third grade, it's a lot of kids. So, and then we have another grade level, I think it's fifth grade, that's quite high. Fifth grade? Yeah, it's fifth grade, that's quite high. So, and because those lunches are staggered, it just made sense to have somebody stay for the 3 hours a day. Other budget questions? All right. The next thing you have in your packet is a draft of my professional goals for the year. So I'm proposing these, as we did last time, as 2-year goals. And the first is a professional practice goal. One of the things, and my goals are really driven in large part by the district's strategic plan and the priorities that we set for each phase of the strategic plan. But the first goal is to really continue to work on that vertical articulation, specifically in special education programming between the elementary districts and King Philip, and to really continue to explore the potential for cost-sharing some programming at the elementary level and ensuring that we have continuity of services across the district. I think that's in everyone's financial best interests, but it also is important that we have, that we're preparing kids well for the next educational venture. So some of the action steps with that would be, and some of them we've started already. We had a joint special education retreat with all of the directors, team chairs, and superintendents from the 4 districts. At that retreat, I worked with the group to develop a shared definition of free and appropriate education, how we were all interpreting that, as well as a joint mission statement for special education programming. We were planning to have quarterly special education steering meetings, and we identified 2 strategic goals and action plans that we're going to work on this year. We're really focusing on one of our populations that has grown, and this is true statewide, our therapeutic program. We have more and more students that we're serving with social emotional needs. So we are looking at making sure that the 3 elementary districts utilize similar curriculum and resource and language in those programs. And King Philip is, I think it's exciting, but they're looking to build a therapeutic program in the middle school, which has been a long-term goal for us because they haven't had a receiving program there. So we're working with an outside consultant to make sure that all those programs, the elementary and middle school, align well. We're also looking to develop a curriculum scope and sequence map for the social emotional learning skills. So what core experiences will we expect kids to have at every grade level feeding the middle school? And then we will present a joint progress report on our subcommittee goals to the school committee for superintendents later in the spring. So those are some of the action steps for that. Some of the evidence that we will have for their goal, we are expecting to have a published shared mission statement and a pre-K to 22 program guide for our social emotional learning programs. So this would be a 2-year goal. Next year, we want to look at our language-based programs, but we're focusing on social emotional this year. The end goal would be to have a program guide for all services that goes from preschool to age 22. Any questions on that one?
I do.
Yeah.
So will you be sharing the results to get feedback from some of the specialists, psychologists, the speech pathologists?
We have and I am happy to bring it and share it. We developed a whole action map of steps and who's involved with what and the timeline, what that would look like.
Okay, so you did solicit feedback from?
Absolutely, from
people.
everybody
Okay.
that's involved. Mental health staff has a
Okay.
role in that.
Okay.
So I can share the action map with you if you guys would like to take a look at it.
Love it.
Yep,
Thank you.
We just had a meeting a week ago Thursday, and we worked on mapping that out. Other questions? Okay. The second goal is a district improvement goal, and our focus, again, this comes from the strategic plan, is to conduct a comprehensive review of the district's social emotional learning program and anti-bullying curriculum. So in our curriculum review cycle, we've gone through a math program review, we've looked at the ELA program, we've looked at all of the social studies and science, we've looked at our core specialist programs, health, music. This year, we want to look at the social emotional learning. So I'll lead that review process. And in addition to that, we want to reevaluate and develop a new student code of conduct that we will bring forward to the school committee. So some of the action steps for that. Both buildings put out a school climate survey last year in consult with the school councils, so we'll be looking at that for trend data to see how parents felt about the school climate and what students reported. We'll be looking at student discipline records, guidance referrals. The DESA is a social emotional screening instrument that we use, so we'll be looking for patterns and trends. Based on the data, we will be putting out a survey to staff and parents to talk about the strengths and challenges, things that they're looking for in the new SEL program. We'll be looking at current research on best practices. We typically, with any curriculum review, look at top performing districts or comparative districts to see what people are using and what that has been effective. So we'll gather data from local communities, share out findings with the staff. Then we'll have a full committee that takes a look at any new programs or models that are out there, make a final selection, and come to the committee to present our recommendations for going forward. And we'll also be working simultaneously on revising our student code of conduct to be more proactive, or to share with parents more what tools we have in place to support students in developing positive skills. And we'll be, as part of that, we'll be reassessing our consequence chart and presenting the revised code of conduct to the school committee, probably around April or May.
I just think it's great that you're looking into reassessing the consequence charts and looking at current research, because, you know, I've brought up in the past too, and I know that this will be looked at, is, you know, taking away recess as a form of punishment, as well as silent lunches or assigned seating. I just would love to see something
More
a little bit
comprehensive.
different and based on research, and correcting that behavior then. So I'm excited that this is happening. So thank you.
And we have some really good material that we're working with through to help us frame that. So I think it'll be a positive thing for the district.
This obviously would include the bus.
Yeah, all
Time as
the,
well?
yes, yeah,
Okay.
consequences for all. The third is, again, from the strategic plan. We've talked about developing a comprehensive communication plan strategy for the district that promotes timely, comprehensive information sharing among students, staff, and families, and looks at really internal and external communications, social media, local media, and web presence. So we're going to have put together, I'll be putting together a communications subcommittee with representatives from a variety of different roles. We're going to be looking at conducting a survey with teachers to look at what communication tools and apps they're using. We're going to be re-looking at whether or not it makes sense for teachers to maintain district web pages, because what we're finding is that parents aren't using that as much, so you're putting a lot of time into developing a web page, and it may not be the best communication tool. So we're going to survey and find out from parents what's most helpful, from teachers what's working, develop an internal communication flow chart for who to go to for what, and a more robust communication chart that we can put out for community members if they have a question how to access information. We're thinking about consulting with a PR agency. There's some new legal concerns that have come up, and so we'll be investigating best practices. There is now a recent litigation that is now indicating that any social media published by the district is also now a public record, and you have to archive and maintain that. So we have to consider that in developing a district platform. If we're going to do a Facebook or a Twitter feed, we also have to have a plan for how we're managing and archiving that information. So we'll have to be looking at all of that in developing our report and our recommendations. And then we will be, I'll be bringing the recommended communication strategy and plan to the school committee. Questions on that one? And then I am proposing for my student learning goal is to focus on closing the achievement gap for students receiving special education and the general population in written language. So the last couple of years, we worked on really closing the achievement gap in mathematics, but we really, I want to shift to a focus on writing. We know that students' ability to think creatively and to express their ideas in writing impacts all subject areas. and we put a lot of time into supporting the district in our new writing curriculum and new writing program. So my focus will be on supporting administrators in observing and evaluating writing instruction, and providing professional development to staff to support our continued growth there. Looking for additional grant funding. Our Title IIA grant, which we funded a lot of professional development in the past, has been cut annually, so we need to look at other sources. Doing some joint observations with principals of written language instruction, so we're calibrating expectations and feedback. I think our admin team is going to be doing a book study on the writing, book called Writing Strategies, which is grounded in research and best practice. So we're, again, working on calibrating the detail and level of our feedback. Let's see, what else? Sharing protocols also for teachers to have a chance to look at and score and evaluate student writing collaboratively, so that we're also working on calibrating expectations that way. And the evidence of goal attainment, there I'll share the published professional development program guide, so you can see how that develops, workshop feedback forms, and then every year around February, I present the district baseline and benchmark report, so that'll have all the student achievement data that you can track from year to year. Any questions on proposed goals?
Anybody have anything?
We'll continue to work on, as you noted in the evaluation, different ways of reaching working parents. So we've been piloting some different things. We just recently, with the new rollout of the new district report card, typically we do parent information nights, which we did. I did a parent information night. I had 2 parents. But that's okay, because what we tried this year was I did a narrated PowerPoint, which we sent out to everybody so they could watch from home, and we actually had 180 people watch from home. So we're reaching more people. I think that gives people the flexibility of seeing the presentation at their own time when they have access to quiet time without their children. And so I think that we're going to continue to look for ways to create archive parent presentations so people can watch in other ways. So if people have suggestions or thoughts of what might work, but we've had good luck with that so far.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good idea, because I mean, I imagine you're a working parent, you get home and
It's
your
hard.
3-year-old's acting up like, oh, I have a meeting at 7, I'm not going.
Yeah, and
then they
dinner,
don't
and then
see
homework.
Then they don't see the information, whereas if they have a
Yeah.
chance to visit whenever they want, I think that's,
Yep, and could go back to.
reality-based.
And the other thing we're going to do is
Right.
we developed I worked with the report card committee, and we put together a parent's guide to interpreting the report card, so that will go home with the first report card for everybody. So we're trying to look for different ways to make the information readily available. But I do think making presentations, or if we wanted to video, sometimes when we have a consultant and they don't allow you to videotape, but when we
Sure.
can, if it's our staff presenting, archiving those presentations for families to be able to log in and watch at a different time. We're going to try to continue to do that.
yeah, I think that would be fantastic. The more usage out of that, the better, because I mean, I think we've gotten certainly better, and I understand this is my yearly obsession, but I think we've gotten a lot better in the years I've been here in terms of communicating with the general public, if you will. But it's still sort of the same model that when I was a kid was basically done, like, you know,
Right.
you get the form letter from the school, now it's electronic versus
Yeah.
whatever, but it hadn't really evolved that much, whereas now this sounds like a better approach to it that's a little more user-friendly for everybody, and then you get
And
the
it's not a
information.
one-shot deal, so if you can't make the night, you can always log in later
Yeah, that's
and
great.
see it
Being able
whenever.
to go back and look at it again is
Yeah, and I
phenomenal.
put it on the website so you can
If it's something new and I come home, or I go to the meeting, or my husband goes to the meeting, and one of us comes home and relays the information,
Yep.
something is invariably misheard or lost in translation. And,
Right.
you know, I mean, just being able to go back and say, oh, that's what she actually said, or
Yeah,
this is what's actually going to happen is awesome.
Yeah, some key point is lost between someone saying and, yeah, that, I think
Or
that's really
sometimes
good.
too, it's like you don't think about it again, and then the report card comes out 2 months later and you have new questions, so to be
Right.
able to go back. So we'll try to do more of that.
I was going to say, even having the opportunity in an announcement to have a link to that
Yeah.
PDF presentation the night before the report cards go out so that people have it fresh in
Yep.
hand and.
good idea.
I could resend it, because that's what, when we send it, before we send it as a link to the presentation, but we could definitely resend it. But we sent it out to 4th through 6th grade, because those are the grades that it's new this year, and out of that group, we had 180 people watch. So that's
really
a
good.
good
Very
percentage. But yes, I could definitely send it out again.
Yeah, because to your point, imagine people get 10,000 emails a day, and
Yep.
something they got a month ago, you've completely forgotten about, whereas if you get the reminder, like, oh, yeah, I want to look at this, because
Yep.
that comes out tomorrow, that's a good
That's a
point.
good idea.
But it's really going to be meaningful when they get those report cards.
Right, and want to go back and look at it. So we'll send the print guide, but we can also resend the link the night before they come out. Yeah, make a note of that. All right, so I need a vote to accept the goals.
So,
Make a motion to accept Ingrid's goals for FY '19, FY '20.
do we have a second?
Second.
2 seconds. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye. The next thing that is in your packet is the school committee has to annually approve rates for substitute teachers. This year, as of January 1st, the minimum wage is increasing again, so we have to adjust the rate for our paraprofessionals to $78 a day in order to meet the requirements of the minimum wage. And in doing that, we're also recommending that we adjust the teacher sub-rate accordingly so that they're comparable. So these are the proposed recommendations. We're recommending keeping all the other long-term sub assistant and certified nurse consistent.
Okay. A motion to accept the proposed rate increases as explained?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second?
Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
That's all I had for tonight.
All right, moving, I guess we do not have a King Philip report, because you, okay. So no King Philip this month. We anxiously await Jeff next month presenting a King Philip report.
Be
And,
robust.
yep,
Oh, yes.
Casella.
and then follow up with Jeff, a little policy subcommittee update.
So let's see here. We discussed the fees, fines, and tuition and charges, student costs. We'll be revisiting that shortly. I don't know if you want to add anything, but we discussed some potential changes and some analysis that we'll revisit, but.
Yeah, we have in our policy right now, we have a permissible penalty for account balances that go beyond 90 days, that the district can refer them to collections. And we're looking at whether that really is in the best interest of the district, so we're going to do some data analysis of what we have currently and what other districts, we've reached out to see what some other districts are doing, and we're going to come with a report to the full committee next week our next meeting to weigh in and consider.
We, for the last few years now, haven't really had too much, like, I know going back a number of years, there was some issues with accounts getting caught back up, and it seemed
Yeah,
like we're in
the
pretty good
biggest
shape.
issue we had was when we charged tuition for kindergarten. But now that we have free full-day kindergarten, we're not charging tuition. The only programs we run that are tuition-based are preschool and SAC.
Right.
So the number of outstanding accounts is significantly less than when we were charging for the kindergarten program. And we do have some penalties that we don't allow people, if they end a year with an outstanding balance, to enroll in any fee-based programs the following year. But we do have some balances that are difficult to collect, so we're going to look at the proportion of that and make a recommendation to the committee in terms of whether we want to pursue the collections route. It's questionable whether it's financially worthwhile in terms of what you get as a return. So we're going to come with a report of what we have total by program in outstanding balances and have the full committee consider.
We don't want to impact the budget negatively, but it sounds like it's a pretty small number.
That's what I was getting at, it didn't seem like it was kind of.
Yeah.
What's how much?
Well,
I mean,
that's-
That's what we're
Yeah,
gonna, we're
that's
gonna
part
take a
of it.
look at where we're at, and we'll come with that next week.
That's part of it, but we also are going to come with a proposal pending review a way to try to incent the families to reconcile those balances, so.
Right. Look at what other options we might have.
So that's what we looked at there. We actually don't currently have a meal charge policy, so we reviewed we did a first review of the mask model policy for meal charges, and it looked okay to us, so bring that forward, I think, for our first reading next time around. And then we did initial review of the online fundraising and solicitations for crowdfunding, and we're going to revisit that next time before we bring it forward for review. But that's it from policy subcommittee.
And then we have two first readings tonight of policies. One is on educational opportunities for children in foster care, and one is educational opportunities for military children. These are just first readings, and both policies, we chose to move forward with the mask proposed model, and they both are highly regulated, so most of what's in the policy is required by the law. So those are first readings on those two policies. Did anyone have questions on either of those?
I do not.
And then we have a vote for incidental changes to the community use of school facilities policy. As we have been renting out the gym more and more frequently, and there's a greater demand, we've found some gaps in the policy that have been problematic. So we have in your policy, the changes that we're recommending are in blue. So one is a clarification of the custodial core hours, that they're different during the non-school days or summer. It's 7 to 5. They're not 7 to 9 during the summer hours. 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. On the second page of that, we are recommending that groups can begin submitting requests for building rentals as of August 15th for the following school year. Any requests received prior to August 15th will be held and not considered until the rental calendar opens. And that the rental calendar will be open for bookings once it opens in August through June of that year. So we've had some issues with groups submitting in April, and, when do you, so we're trying to tighten that. If multiple Norfolk groups submit requests for open time slots, then the school department will determine an equitable way to share the facility. So we've had situations where multiple Norfolk groups submit, and, CYO might want 5 nights a week, and another group wants 2 nights a week, and they come in at the same time, so we're trying to divide the space fairly. Also, just once a reservation's been confirmed, the only people that can cancel are the Norfolk schools in case of an emergency. So we've had questions of, if we booked to an outside group in Medfield, an open night, once that's confirmed, a Norfolk group wants the space, we can't cancel or we'll never rent the gym if your event could be canceled. So it's only the Norfolk schools that can cancel events. The other issue that we've had and we added is that all groups are expected to adhere to their rental times. They're not admitted into the building until the start of the rental, and they have to be out of the space immediately after the rental period ends, because we often have events booked back to back. So we have one CYO group coming in, and then we have futsal. And so when they stay over, it cuts into the next group's time. And again, the change to the core hours. And then the last is just reminding people that they have to sign a release of liability form, and their rental won't be confirmed until that's received. So they have 48 hours after the reservation just to hold the space and to return their release of liability form, which just says that they're responsible for any damages incurred to the space during the time of the rental. I think that's it.
In all these instances, a group that's booking it, they're paying up front for the full booking period, is that correct, or no?
How are we billing? No, they're
No, we bill them
paying by
by
event,
hours,
by month,
Yeah,
right?
we do it monthly.
So
Okay.
CYO might reserve the space, they're billed monthly, they're not paying up front for the whole year. They might reserve the space, they're billed monthly for usage. And we do
If they
pretty.
cancel.
They're
within 48
billed
hours,
anyway.
Charged $20.
Yep, if they cancel by right, not in enough time, then they're charged for that.
How likely is it to rebook that spot if it is canceled
That's what I noticed, I
greater
would
than
assume.
48 hours? Is there that much demand?
No, and the $20 would cover the room rental, and if it's core hours, we're not charging a custodial fee anyway. So we don't lose much if somebody cancels and they pay the $20 fee. That's why we set it that way, so that we'd recoup the time.
I mean, just scheduling and.
The scheduling, we use Facilities Dude, so it's an online scheduling program. Our facilities directors approve the requests in consult with the secretaries, and then Pam does the billing. All through this, it's all through the software.
Great.
I was just trying to think, is there any benefit, I don't know what we could do with it, I can't really come up with something, like if a group wanted to pay upfront for the whole time,
Give it a discount.
is there anything to be added to it, like, just to,
We could consider it. The only difficulty, it's hard to refund. So if you cancel and we're charging you a $20 fee, or you cancel for the second half of the year, we have to go through town hall to get a check cut to refund. So it's a bit of a hassle on the other end to get to
I guess it was
refund
just-
You could always
events.
just give them a credit towards next year.
I don't know if we can carry the balance.
I'm just
We
saying,
might.
if, what I was thinking is, if someone paid in advance and got a little bit of discount, so we have the full, like, I'm involved with CYO, there's a reason I'm asking this question,
Yeah.
and they're always willing, they're like, we want to write a check tomorrow, I'm like, all right, settle down. But let's just say they paid whatever, they booked it for the year, and they end up towards the end of the year, hey, we're not going to use this, they aren't really looking for the money back, candidly. So that's less work for Pam to then send out invoices.
We can
Is
ch-
there
I can
anything,
check
I
with
guess if there's
business
anything to be
office
said
see if
for
there's
that.
any reason we can't have people prepay. I'll check. I'm not sure on that.
I guess can't really think of a downside. If someone's willing to say, yeah, we're going to do
Okay.
it, and we understand we can't get our money back if we do this.
Yeah,
I
if
mean,
you just have it be a full commitment obligation at a
yeah.
5% discount or
Like,
something
If you want to give it
like
to us,
that,
fine,
like,
we'll
this
give
is
you
it.
X off, but you
Yeah.
can't, if you cancel, sorry.
We're
You already
keeping your
got the
money,
benefit
yeah.
up front. So,
Okay. I'll look into that, whether people can prepay and what the requirements would
so
be
I can
on
think of
that.
one organization that'll do that. For what that's worth.
So I would suggest, if possible, if we can vote to approve the
Yep.
changes as they are, and then I'll look
Always
at that,
change
and then
that
if
if
we can always do another incidental change. But I think getting the revised policy out will help us with the rest of the bookings this
Oh,
year.
definitely. All right, so do we have a motion to accept the use of facilities policy as stated?
I make a motion to accept the community use of facilities and resources policy changes as stated.
I'm sorry, that made me laugh. Do we have a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so then we just need to vote on the minutes from our last meeting. So the motion to accept the minutes as submitted?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as submitted.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Assuming no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Last thing, we are scheduled for the 11th of December. Does that work for everybody?
I have a question. What happens if it snow? Like how,
Never say that word.
was it roll?
If we're closed, we typically cancel.
Okay.
And then we schedule the meeting. I think there was one time that the storm ended by 10 o'clock in the morning, and it was fine, and we did go ahead. So we'll make that decision, then we'd announce it.
Do we just roll to the next Tuesday, or is that just?
No, we would have to, we typically send out an email and say, do these dates work?
Got to reset them.
And-
Because didn't we do this a couple times last year? Didn't we kept running into issues in the
We
spring with
did.
snowstorms?
We did. So we just, Pam would contact each of you and say, does this date work? And we make sure we have a quorum, and then we reschedule and announce
Okay.
the date.
Thank you.
Quick. And then just as a quick aside, I had made a reference this last month, but I'm working on the committee to appoint a new town administrator. So we have, that is actually going to be a remarkably condensed process, so we very well may have a recommendation to the selectmen in December at some point. So, as it stands right now, I think we have 10 candidates that potentially is going to be putting in. We just had sort of a informational meeting and did some scheduling this morning. So I'll keep you updated as that goes on, but obviously the relationship with the town administrator is very important for us, and we've had a great relationship with Jack. Certainly sorry to see him go, but hopefully we'll have some, I want to be part of this process to help us going forward, so make sure we continue to have a say. So I'll let you know how that turns out, but I just want to kind of give a quick FYI on that. And I think that's all we have, right? We are concluded. Very loud table down.